The box office top 10. Comscore, they're the people that have done all this.
Yay,
and
Comscore.
they take all the responsibility. Green Border is at number 17.
Which I thought was very powerful film from Anisha Holland, and it's a very distressing watch, but it's about a very difficult subject, and I thought it was, like I said, very powerful.
Ollie Freeman says the film was brilliant, level-eyed, humane, yet unsentimental.
Yeah, that's bang on.
Yes, I think that's good. Up with the helpers and down with the usual stuff.
Yeah.
Number 10, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga.
I think we have established that you and I both thought this was a really solid piece of entertainment, and we can't quite understand why some people are sniffy about it.
Number 9, Something in the Water.
It's always hard to make a shark movie since Steven Spielberg did it. But I think actually when you consider that this is a fairly low budget affair and it's really more about the group of friends who are sort of on a hen party who then end up in the water, I think it works well. It's got a good score, very, very good score.
Number 8, here 7 in America, is The Exorcism.
Yes.
Go
on.
Okay. St. Jimmy on our YouTube channel. The stupidest part of the film is that each day the possession of Crowe's character got worse and more destructive, but he kept getting up every morning and going to work.
Yep.
All in the Game says Russell Crowe went from having one of the best actor runs of the last 30 years, LA Confidential, The Insider, Gladiator, Master and Commander, 3:10 to Yuma, to currently having one of the worst.
It's an absolute car crash. All you need to know is this was shot in 2019, shut down due to COVID, pretty much abandoned, resurrected in the wake of The Pope's Exorcist, resurrected as a straight-to-streaming project. And then because there is a dearth, I know that Inside Out 2 has done brilliantly well, but there is a dearth of movies, around that are doing equal business. So they thought, well, let's stick it in the cinema and see whether it makes some money. It's absolute rubbish. And it's kind of a shame that, it's Joshua John Miller, who's Jason Miller's son, because that sounded like it was interesting, but it's a car crash of a film. It does not deserve your attention.
If is at number 7.
Better idea than it is a film, but it is a good idea.
Garfield movie at 6.
Not even a good idea. but it took a ton of money.
Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is at number 5, number 4 in the States.
Yeah, well, it's done very well, and it does appear that my reservations about the slowness of the first hour are not shared by a huge number of the fans. So, maybe I'm wrong. Well, according to Child 2, I am wrong.
You entry at 4, Right Here, Right Now.
So this I haven't seen. This is an American concert film of the Swedish rock band Ghost. Are you familiar with the Swedish rock band Ghost?
No, we don't play a lot of them on Greatest Hits because they didn't really have any hits back in the day.
Right. Okay. Well, here's a chance to catch up with them, Simon.
Do you think?
No.
Number 3, here 2 in the States, Bad Boys, Ride or Die.
Nobody asked for another Bad Boys film except for all the financiers, and it turns out a huge amount of the audience. So it's out there making money. Yes. Like it's going out of business.
In which case, it should be celebrated, given how rubbish things are in general.
Yeah.
If there's a film that's packing them in for whatever reason, then well done it.
But what should be celebrated more is what's at number 2.
Now, number 2 is Bike Riders. The Bike Riders is number 3 in America. It's a couple of emails here. Jackie says, one of my CGBs, my cinema-going buddies, and I spent a sunny Saturday night in our usual seats, the middle sofa at the back, known as the Throne, at the Exeter Picture House, watching the Bike Riders.
Yeah.
Austin Butler is in capital letters, proper film star. He has such an aura about him, saying so few words but saying everything with his eyes. Tom Hardy is menacing, even when he isn't, demanding your attention when he's on the screen. Jodie Comer, however, is the real star of the film. You warm to her instantly. Her constant bubbling dialogue in a perfect Chicago drawl ensures that she is the heart of the film. There was some entirely justified code breaking, a collectible audible wince when that was inflicted on that particular character, and an intake of breath when that happened to a different character. Bike Riders is a beautifully shot film, gorgeous scenery, and a thoroughly entertaining way to spend a couple of hours. Jacob Sarkisian. This type of hyper-masculine subject matter isn't usually my cup of tea, but I thought The Bike Riders was just exquisite. It was beautifully shot with some of the best cinematographer of the year I would guess that's cinematography of the year. And I thought the narrative structure made for a brilliant documentary-like feel. Jodie Comer, as always, was brilliant, and Austin Butler was brilliant to look at and proved he is an absolute movie star. The film, however, belonged to Tom Hardy. I thought it was his best ever performance, and as someone who writes for awards site Gold Derby, I hope he gets nominated for the Best Supporting Actor Oscar. He was magnetic. What an utter joy it was to be so enthralled by this film that I've not stopped recommending it to everyone I know ever since. Jeff Nichols created a very particular world in this film, and it was a joy to spend time in whilst these bikers were portrayed as family rather than thugs, which they are often depicted as in most films. I mean, there are some thuggish elements as well. But anyway, the Bike Riders is number 2.
It's really good to hear that response, because when I reviewed it last week, what I said was, look, I really liked it, but then I was the person who went to see Kathy Bigelow's The Loveless, on a late night double bill with Eraserhead. And I think that the audience for this is going to be cult movie fans. Actually, it sounds to me from those emails like it is finding a wider audience than that. And I think that's really encouraging, because if a film like The Bike Riders can find a more mainstream audience than, people at the Phoenix at 11:30 on a Friday, or people at the Scala at 1 o'clock, then that's a great thing, because it's the touch points are William Friedkin's Cruising, Catherine Bigelow's Loveless. Those are the movies that it relates to. And it's just brilliant to hear people responding to it that well.
And number 1 in the UK, number 1 in the States, and looking at the figures, it's very number 1.
Very number 1.
Inside Out 2. Joanna Kroom says, yesterday was a major parenting milestone. I took our 4-year-old to the cinema for the first time. Inside Out 2 felt like a good choice, as she loves the first film. Our local cinema had a mum and baby showing, so I could bring the baby too, and the more relaxed atmosphere would mean the 4-year-old's inevitable questions about why this was happening and what was going on wouldn't disturb other cinema goers. My parenting isn't up to enforcing the code of conduct on a 4-year-old at her first cinema trip. Whilst the 4-year-old may not remember her first cinema trip, I wouldn't be so sure about that. It is a memory I will cherish, says Joanna, cuddling up in the reclining cinema chairs, talking about how it's okay to be worried about things, but it's good how Riley's emotions work out, how to not let, anxiety take over. I didn't need to be at altitude for the lacrimosity to build. The baby even stayed mostly quiet too. Inside Out 2, number 1.
Well, I mean, fantastic that a film has found it's hit such a nerve with audiences. And this is now the second or third week that we've had these kind of responses from people saying that they have had really profound emotional responses to it, that they've found that it's spoken to them and that it's bonded them with it. It's doing all the things that cinema is meant to do. So again, interesting, because I said my concern was that maybe because it was dealing with adolescents, that some of the metaphors aren't as simple as they are, aren't as clear cut as they are in the first film. No one seems to be having a problem with that. People seem to be just understanding the film on a gut level. And that speaks really highly of it, that people are it's just getting right into them, and good for it. I mean, hooray, a bona fide hit.
As we're talking about the way the body works, I think that's interesting. When you're talking about a film like Inside Out 2 working on a gut level, because what is that? So that's a different part of the brain, isn't it? Because we don't think with our gut, we think with our brain. So what is
I mean, what I mean by that is there are some movies that you could enjoy because you're sort of, you're being intellectually stimulated or titillated by them, or you're intrigued, or you're trying to figure out, who did what, and like a whodunit or something. And there are other things that just hit you on a gut level. When I say gut level, I often think of it being like a sort of sucker punch thing that you feel it, you don't think it, you just experience it. And for me, the best horror does that, and a good weepy does that. It hits you on it. And I think probably in older parlance, gut level is somehow thought of as a lesser art form. And yet, I just don't understand that at all. I think if something just bypasses your brain and just goes straight to your body, to your heart, to your soul, I think that's a very powerful thing.
And probably in the film's favor, the fact that the first movie is on Disney Plus, therefore there are lots of people who can see that as preparation for Inside Out 2.
Yeah.
But obviously...
And also, why would you not just watch Inside Out over and over again, whether there was a sequel in the cinema or not?
Anyway, as we said, it's very number 1, and clearly it's going to be one of the hits of the year.